What's up? Welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks for being here, being subbed. If you're not, hit the button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into the politics and BS. Hey, what's up, guys? Listen, let's just go ahead and get into this. So the Jimmy Kimmel debacle, I don't believe is over yet, but he has returned to late night TV. And the thing about all of this is that the attacks on free speech, which has always been a thing when it comes to 45/47, because when it comes to him, he can speak a bunch of lies. And in his first term, when he was doing a lot of lying and the social media platforms were not bowing down and worshiping him at the time, and they were not owned by people like Elon Musk and now Zuckerberg, who's pretty much said, how much you want? I'll just give you whatever you want. How much do you want me to give you? And they were, I wouldn't say censoring him, but they were fact checking things that he was saying. And he did get banned from the social media network at the time. It was called Twitter, which people still call it Twitter, but the person who called out 45/47 for being in the Epstein files that bought Twitter and renamed it X, he was allowing 45/47 to return to the platform. And he was talking about, we're going to have free speech again. And it's just pretty much the wild, wild west on Twitter/X, where people can say whatever they want to say. And even though 45/47 has his own social media network now, which is ironically called Truth Social, which is laughable because he cannot tell the truth to save his life, he still is just spouting off a whole bunch of lies about a lot of things. But when it comes to people speaking about him that have these large platforms and a lot of people follow them and hear what they have to say, and he's also jealous of them because let's be clear, 45/47, he loves attention. He wanted to be a Hollywood star. That's why he trashes Hollywood, because he never got to be to the place where he really wanted to be, even though he was given The Apprentice. They made him look like a successful businessman when he was never really successful. He's always been propped up in business. They made him look like, we know reality shows are not real. So the fact that people thought that he was a successful businessman because he played one on a reality show is so funny. But yet and still, that show, as well as the bigotry and hatred and racism that is in a lot of people's hearts that a lot of them will not admit to. And because we had President Barack Obama, who, by the way, even though he identifies as black, is biracial, they hated that. So they allowed one of the most bigoted people to become the president of the United States of America. One who can't stand even when someone makes a joke about him. And one of the reasons why is because a lot of the jokes that are made about him, they're anchored in truth. He does not like the truth, and that's why he calls his social media network Truth Social. But I digress. He called him out directly, and I loved it, because the thing that people who are on that other side, who are MAGA or who call themselves right, who felt like that was the right thing to do for the show to be canceled, for him to be suspended indefinitely, when he didn't say or do anything wrong, those are the main ones that talk about free speech. Those are the main ones that were saying Biden was terrible. The economy was trash. Look at what's going on right now. A lot of the people that voted for him, they're suffering and they're struggling right now financially. And because something was said that hurt his feelings, he wants to put his feelings over the finances of not just the nation, but primarily the people, not just Kimmel. Because let's be clear, Jimmy Kimmel is going to be all right. But all of the hundreds of people who work for that show, a lot of people work paycheck to paycheck. You just want to cancel the show and all these people lose their jobs. But hey, this is the same administration that on day one started ripping apart government agencies, saying people don't deserve to have a job working for the government when it's a job. What do you want people to do? But let's get into some of the things that Jimmy Kimmel had to say.
They are my fellow late night talk show hosts, my friend Stephen Colbert, who found himself in this predicament. My friends Jon Stewart, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, Oliver, Conan O'Brien, James Corden, Arsenio, Kathy, Wanda, Chelsea, even Jay reached out. I heard from late night hosts in other countries, from Ireland and from Germany. The guy in Germany offered me a job. Can you imagine? This country has become so authoritarian, the Germans are like, come here, cut loose. My boyhood idols, Howard Stern and David Letterman, were very considerate. And I feel honored to be part of a group of people that knows what goes into doing a show like this. And I also want to thank all of you. You supported our show, cared enough to do something about it, to make your voices heard so that mine could be heard. I will never forget it. And maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. People who I never would have imagined. Like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying, we don't like what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. This about me, because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who told me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until I pulled my friend Stephen off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American. And it is so bad. I want you to think about that. Should the government be allowed to regulate which podcasts the cell phone companies and Wi-Fi providers are allowed to let you download to make sure they serve the public interest? You think that sounds crazy? No! 10 years ago, this sounded crazy. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, in addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing car Republicans have embraced since this one. And that's very clear. He wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week. We have to speak out against this guy. He's not stopping. And it's not just comedy. He's gunning for our journalists too. He's suing them. He's bullying them. Over the weekend, his foxy friend Pete Hegseth announced a new policy that requires journalists with Pentagon press credentials to sign a pledge promising not to report information that hasn't been explicitly authorized for release. That includes unclassified information. They want to pick and choose what the news is. I know that's not as interesting as muzzling a comedian, but it's so important to have a free press, and it is nuts that we aren't paying more attention to.
Listen, man, when I tell you, I'm glad he didn't come back and just act like nothing happened. I'm glad he spoke to the situation directly. And I don't know if you caught a little part of his voice breaking up a little bit, because there was real emotion and passion in that. Because I do believe that Jimmy Kimmel really cares about people. I'm going to play a little bit of what Lunel, the comedian who I absolutely love, had to say about Jimmy Kimmel.
Most of you know that I actually work for Jimmy Kimmel. I work for myself, but I work for him too. Here in Las Vegas at Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club, where he has allowed me to be. And I'm going to eat and talk. So if you don't like smacking or you don't like that, click out. But do not tell me what not to do on here, because I'll click off and want nobody to see nothing. So Jimmy has allowed, oh great, Monday, okay, great. What Jimmy has allowed me to do is be at his club here in Vegas since the doors opened 5 years ago. Jimmy has given me the opportunity to be I am the only black female with an ongoing comedy residency in Las Vegas. Jimmy has never censored me, edited me, controlled me, or ever told me what to do. And he's never given me any problem with anything that I've had.
Let me tell you something. I'm just so disgusted with this person that is cosplaying as a president. I mean, he went over to the UN and embarrassed himself and the US by going over there, cosplaying as the president, saying a bunch of nothing. Like, there is no time, I don't believe, ever in history. They used to say George Bush was stupid, and in a way, I believe he was. But he makes George Bush look like a Rhodes Scholar. Like, really, with the ridiculous things that he says. And the hypocrisy that Jimmy Kimmel exposed, because it's like, you are in your feelings over the finances of the nation and the people who work for this show so much more that you would be willing to have my show canceled and all of these people, hundreds of staff members, lose their job. But then you want to fire the statistician who gives the job numbers, and then you bring on somebody that is all for him that will lie about the numbers so that it will not affect the stock market in a drastic way, because all he cares about is money for himself and maybe making a few of his rich friends richer. So to me, Kimmel was like, you can't preach about protecting jobs and the economy while at the same time you're trying to silence people who have opposing views. These people are not threatening your life. They're not saying what happened to you or what attempted to have happened to you months ago was a good thing or nothing like that. There was nothing that was said that was inflammatory. The hypocrisy that they are showing is unreal. And for the people who are blinded, this is why they talk about woke so much, and they don't want people to be woke, and they're against woke. If you're someone who wants to be rocked to sleep, you want to be blind, then you be that. You do that. But it's an insult for anyone to say this woke stuff, because woke does not equal being gay. Woke does not equal being in the LGBTQ community. Woke does not mean any of the things that they have tried to make it out to be. Woke is literally the opposite of being asleep. They want you all to be asleep. That's why they're against woke. But they have changed the narrative around it. They can't change the definition of it, but they've changed the narrative around it to make it seem like that's what it really is. So the people who don't want to be gay, oh, I'm not woke. Like woke means being gay. Like, you freaking idiots. You should know what the definitions of words mean versus allowing them to hypnotize you and to brainwash you into believing something that's not even real. And this is why I was talking about the election during the last election, when I was saying things like, this man wants this country to be like North Korea. you're not able to have free speech. You're not able to speak out. You definitely are not able to make jokes about the person who is in command. And actually, it is the law that you actually believe that that person is this supreme being and supreme leader, and you can't even believe in God. So all these people who claim, oh, this is a Christian nation, that man is not a Christian. He is one of the furthest from it. I'm not going to say he is the only one, but he's one of the furthest from being a Christian. And it's the height of hypocrisy for these people. Remember years ago when you used to hear about jihad and these Muslim extremists that if people didn't convert to Islam, then they would like do these suicide bombings. Like, that's crazy, right? But look at what they're doing in this country. It's like they're trying to force people to believe, and that's the furthest thing from being a believer. It's not even supposed to be like that. They're wanting to like force people to believe in God. So for them to want to enforce their beliefs, which they don't really believe in God, but I'm just saying, it's ridiculous because you're not that much different from the people who wanted or believed that people who were not believers of Islam and followers of Islam, that they would commit jihad to make people convert, threaten them with that, I should say. So there's so much hypocrisy, but when it comes to the free speech and how he wants to shut up people who make jokes about him, he holds the grudges so much. He cannot take a joke. That's one of the reasons why, even though it was a business move for him, he never wanted to be the president and never really thought that he could be, but he ran for marketing purposes, and a bunch of dummies actually voted for him over the other candidates, which speaks volumes about the other candidates. Let's be clear. It just means they were trash too. But I'm just saying, the fact that Obama at one of those states dinners that 45/47 attended, Obama was making fun of him. He should have not even paid him any attention. But that was during the time of that birther movement when 45/47 was saying President Obama wasn't born in this country and his birth certificate is fake and whatever. So Obama was responding to that. But there are some people who believe because Obama gave him that attention at that state's dinner and he made fun of him, that stirred something up in him to run for president.
Trump is here tonight. Now, I know that he's taken some flack lately, but no one is happier, no one is prouder to put this birth certificate matter to rest than the Donald. And that's because he can finally get back to focusing on the issues that matter. Like, did we fake the moon landing? What really happened in Roswell? And where are Biggie and Tupac? Say what you will about Mr. Trump. He certainly would bring some change to the White House. All kidding aside, obviously we all know about your credentials and breadth of experience. For example, no, seriously, just recently in an episode of Celebrity Apprentice, at the steakhouse, the men's cooking team did not impress the judges from Omaha Steaks. And there was a lot of blame to go around, but you, Mr. Trump, recognized that the real problem was a lack of leadership. And so ultimately you didn't blame Little John or Meatloaf. You fired Gary Busey. And these are the kind of decisions that would keep me up at night.
So I played that clip for you guys if you've never seen it, or if you didn't remember about it, or maybe you saw it and it's like, oh yeah, I remember about that. That is actually the catalyst to us having to suffer under this administration, not once, but twice. And not only that, like just being terrorized with the fact that he kept saying that the 2020 election was stolen and how, so like him running for president the third time. And that's why I agree with Kamala when she said, I had 107 days to run. He's been running for the last 10 years. That's a true statement. Late night hosts and comedians have always mixed some laughter and humor with political commentary. Why? Because that's their job. And two, you ever heard that old saying, you got to laugh to keep from crying? Because a lot of the things that are going on, especially now, it's just like, oh my God, am I going to make it? That's how a lot of people feel. But his return and the things that he said in his monologue, I feel like it's a reminder of these culture wars that because of the person that's in office, it's intensified. So his clapback, it definitely was not just about him. It was definitely for defending free speech. And also the way this economy is right now, people ain't got time to be losing their jobs like this, and then you're going to be canceling or having the influence to have the show canceled, and all of these people lose their jobs because you can't take a joke, or better yet, don't freaking listen. Like, how hard is that? Put your finger in your ears and say la 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 something. Hell, you're supposed to be running the country. Why do you even have time to sit and listen to what he has to say about you? Ignore and move forward. You got a whole bunch of other stuff that you're supposed to be doing, and not only that, you have golf games to be playing. Like, this is the person that's played golf more times than worked than any other president in history. So I really want to know what you guys think about Jimmy Kimmel returning. Do you like what he had to say and him calling out Trump? I'll put the full video link in the description box. Of course, I didn't play the whole thing. And I'm just glad he's back, but there are some affiliates that chose not to air it because they're still boycotting as if he did anything wrong. It's just absolutely ridiculous what is going on. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and by the way, before I end, I'm so glad he had the balls to mention those Epstein files, because let's be clear, this situation that happened with CK, right before it happened, all of the goings on was about the Epstein files. Notice how nobody's really talking about that anymore? And you wonder why people are conspiracy theorists. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for being here, liking, and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.